In this study, we actually describe the sequencing of the entire genome of Black Death, so the scourge of the Middle Ages that killed some 50 million people in 1348 in London, England. This paper is a landmark because it is the first complete ancient genome of any pathogen isolated from ancient or skeletal fossilized remains. The data that we've collected for this particular paper reveal something very fascinating about the origins of plague. They show that the medieval plague of 1348 London is the ancestor of all modern plagues that we have in existence around the world today. That means a plague outbreak in India last year, one in Africa not that long ago, and one very recently in Colorado, all have their origins in London 1348 in the midst of the Black Death. It is important to study ancient pathogens because in a lot of cases, diseases such as the plague turn out to be emerging or re-emerging infections. And in fact, what we find with this particular plague of 1348, the Black Death, is it's actually the ancestor of all modern plagues that are still in existence today. Hence, studying the past will allow us to be able to predict possibly future pandemics. This paper marks a technological breakthrough because in any ancient skeletal remain, the DNA is heavily cleaved into little tiny fragments. In this particular paper, we describe a method in which these tiny little fragments can be pulled out of these complex skeletal extracts and rejigged into a complete genome. And therefore, it's the first ancient genome of a pathogen actually reconstructed. Once reconstructed, we can actually compare the ancient genome with the modern genomes and assess whether or not there are any differences which might account for the tremendous virulence that the Black Death had in 1348. This will lead us into the study of diseases of the past. Prior to this work, it was impossible to study diseases of past human populations. But with this technology and with this access to genomes of the past, we can really understand or begin to understand the evolutionary trajectory of diseases. How did they evolve over time? Why did they kill so many people? Will they possibly reemerge at a later date and time? How can we be better prepared for them in the future?